Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 831 specifically addresses the ability of our Attorney General to issue a CID, a Civil Investigative Demand, against our universities and professors. And as you probably know, this bill arises out of the litigation that the Attorney General has had with the University of Virginia, which has started last year and continued over into this year. And specifically, it was drawn from the opinion of Judge Pete Ross, which came down on August 30th last year, which dealt with the definition of what a person is, or who a person is, under the Fraud Against Taxpayers Act. What I've tried to do here is craft a narrowly tailored solution to what I regard as, frankly, a flaw right now, where essentially the CID is limited so that it can't be used against an area of academic inquiry or research. And I think that gets to the specific issue in Judge Pete Ross's opinion that was a controversy between the parties, and in that respect, it is a limitation on the Attorney General's authority to issue that subpoena. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously this is an issue of academic freedom from my perspective. Like many of you, I have colleges and universities in my Senate district. I represent George Mason University. I represent numerous academics that work there, starting with my father, and I think we have better things to do than going through their email inboxes. And with that, I move that the bill pass.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Harrisonburg, Senator Obenshain.
Mr. President, speaking of the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. I understand the concerns that the senator from Fairfax City has about this particular investigation. There are a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who share some of those same concerns about this use, that particular use of the Attorney General's investigatory power. However, there are clearly many circumstances in which that power is appropriate and very important. For example, I read in the newspaper, and it probably wasn't the Attorney General's office who investigated this, but it was somebody else, at ODU, there was a criminal prosecution and a guilty plea as a consequence of fraud and other misconduct in a university fertility clinic research lab. There was obvious misconduct, and actually somebody pled guilty. Are we really going to suggest that because you don't like what the Attorney General did in investigating an area that apparently is politically verboten, climate change, that we ought to strip the Attorney General's office for time immemorial of the ability to investigate fraud in a public body? Collegely verboten, climate change, that we ought to strip the Attorney General's office for time immemorial of the ability to investigate fraud in a public body. Colleges and universities represent a significant portion of our state expenditures and a significant portion of the research and development expenditures. If there is a college professor, if there is a research assistant who is deliberately, intentionally diverting funds from their particular research project or falsifying it in order to be able to get additional funds, do we really want to strip the Attorney General's office from the ability and the power to be able to launch and participate in this kind of an investigation? Mr. President, members of the Senate, I hope you will not tread down this path. I hope that you will take it out on the Attorney General in future electoral efforts. Do whatever you want. Editor, put political pressure on. Defend a lawsuit. But stripping every Attorney General of his power is simply wrong.
President, members of the Senate, I hope that you will pass this measure. What the Attorney General did, and obviously had the right to do under the law as it presently was constituted, was to initiate a civil investigation, not a criminal one, not the criminal type of issue that the senator from Harrisonburg just raised, but a civil investigation. And he did so by using a subpoena-like power to start this investigation without allowing the defendant the opportunity to defend himself. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I would suggest to you that when the Attorney General is acting in his civil capacity, he's acting just like any other civil lawyer, just like the senator from Fairfax City, just like me. And I would suggest to you then that he does not need some sort of enhanced investigative powers to do so. Rather, he ought to do like the rest of the civil bar does, work your case up, investigate it, file a complaint, name the defendant, and let the defendant be able to defend himself in court from whatever allegations that might arise. I would suggest to you that a lot of folks in this chamber and down the hall are concerned about the overreach of government, about the big hand of government coming down and crashing down on the head of the little guy. Well, this is an example of it. And so if you are concerned about those issues, the gentleman from Fairfax City has narrowly tailored this matter to work on a particular problem dealing with academic freedom. If you are concerned about those issues, I suggest respectfully that you vote for the measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. The question is, shall the bill pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24.